Okay then. So we start with our Cube class, and thanks for coming. Maybe before we deep dive into the digital ecosystems in Germany, who has seen our talk yesterday? Okay, just a few hands. Then in that case, maybe we start again talking about digital ecosystems and what digital ecosystems are when we talk about them. And I'm pretty sure all of you know what a digital ecosystem is in general. And I'm pretty sure all of you have seen many of these already. And I'm pretty sure you have also used them. So eBay, Airbnb, Spotify, YouTube, all of these are examples of digital ecosystems. And what all of these examples have in common is one thing: they're known for not being from Germany. So we see many examples of them, typically from the Silicon Valley, things that are not coming from Germany. But the interesting part when we talk about digital ecosystems is that this is not something that is only coming from the Silicon Valley. In fact, there are many, many great examples that are also coming from Germany. Scout24, Flixbus, Schüttflix, Delivery Hero, Better Place, Caruso, all of these ecosystems are ecosystems that are coming from Germany or are mainly operating in Germany. And these are also very successful and sometimes even famous digital ecosystems that we can find there. But what is a digital ecosystem, you are asking? So a bit of theory. We are from the Fraunhofer-Institut. That's why we always love to do some definitions. So before we really dig into the talk, let's start with a definition. The digital ecosystem is a social technical system. So that's a system where technical stuff, where software is really important, but not only. Organizations, other stakeholders, users are of equal importance. And we have several participants in that ecosystem, in the digital ecosystem, that are independent of each other. But they are collaborating for the mutual benefit. And last but not least, the collaboration that is going on based on an ecosystem service. And that ecosystem service is coming from the ecosystem initiator, and the ecosystem service is provided through the digital platform. Okay, so many, many words here. Let's sort it out a bit more. We have those participants in the ecosystem. They are connected via that ecosystem service. And the collaboration is happening via that ecosystem service in that ecosystem. That service generates the core benefit of the ecosystem, and this ecosystem service is running on that digital platform. So this is the main idea of a digital ecosystem when we are talking about that thing. And I can see, okay, that was a bit much of theory. We can go a bit more into practice. When you want to talk about a digital ecosystem and you really want to nail it down, the most important thing is to make it really clear. And to make things clear when talking about the digital ecosystem, you have to fit it into one sentence. You have to put the idea, what the ecosystem is doing, into just one sentence. And you can do that. Let's take the example of Spotify. All of you know Spotify, I assume. Great service, something that completely changed the way that I use music. I don't buy CDs anymore. I don't think about buying an MP3. There's that thing that always provides me with great music that matches my taste wherever I am, whenever, it doesn't matter. But what is Spotify doing in terms of the digital ecosystem? Spotify offers the brokering of audio content provided by musicians or labels for listeners. And this stencil here for the sentence, someone is offering the brokering of something provided by someone for someone. This is the sentence stencil that we can use to describe any digital ecosystem. And we have many more examples. My colleague will continue with the next one.
Yeah, exactly. So following the same pattern, we have an example that you might not have heard before. Cavallo, but if I say one sentence, you know exactly what they are doing, because it's basically Airbnb for storage spaces. And I think you immediately get the idea. They are owners of spaces that could be used for putting in some cargo. So what Cavallo does is the brokering of storage spaces They are provided by private owners, and, well, whoever uses it, someone who rents the spaces, is connected to these via the digital platform. And that already is one example of a digital ecosystem from Germany, the main topic of today's Q class, why you came here. And why we are here is because we wrote a study about digital ecosystems in Germany. We looked at, or we selected more than 40 digital ecosystems, as Patrick said, who are from Germany. And we just want to get the idea that there are so many great examples of digital ecosystems, not only from the Silicon Valley. So we looked at all kinds of industries. We actually collected the data already in 2001, published the study last year. So you will see some data that might be already outdated because things are changing so quickly. But still, I think the main idea is that what we can learn from these digital ecosystems are still valid. And what you will see on the next slides is a picture like on the bottom left, where we show who is the provider of the asset, who is the consumer of the asset, and who is the broker, who is the organization that brings these two parties together. And, well, they are private persons, they are companies, B2B, B2C, basically everything is there in the study, everything we can learn from. And we looked at kind of all domains, because what we've seen already on this slide with all the logos, basically digital ecosystems happen everywhere in each and every domain. So we looked at real estate, we looked at money, we looked at media, of course. Data is a big thing, or any kinds of goods, basically everywhere we see digital ecosystems. And not only everywhere in each domain, but also across the country, we see digital ecosystems. This means you do not have to be in Munich or in Berlin to be the founder of a digital ecosystem. We see it actually everywhere. And, well, we want now to look in a few examples, and we always try to highlight things that we can actually learn from this example. And we start with the first one, Schüttflix. Schüttflix is also a company that at least I, as a private person, probably would have never heard of. What they are doing, well, they are providers of bulk cargo. That's Schüttgut in German. That's why the word Schüttflix. So there's this cargo that is provided by organizations, and of course there are the construction sites that need the material, and there's even a third party, the organizations who have the trucks to transport the cargo from one side to another side. And we see they are founded in 2018, but already have thousands of providers and consumers already in Germany, and they're even expanding towards Europe. So again, a few more ideas what Schüttflix does. One special thing is what they do, they prepay for the cargo. This means they take all the risk for someone who wants to, well, for the brokering. This means they take the risk if there is someone who is not able to pay. The guy who invested first, who wanted the cargo, he is not getting any bad aspects in this case. So that's kind of an investment of a promise that Schüttflix makes to attract at least one side of the market. And then Schüttflix, and maybe that's something that they could be more famous of, they are very kind of aggressive in their advertisement. They have Sophia Tomalla, which is obviously a famous person who is making advertisement for them. They have the slogan, echte Kerle spielen nicht im Sand, sie kaufen ihn. So real guys, they don't play with sand, they get it via Schüttflix, obviously. So they are kind of, well, trying to be on the cool side of this market. And then I mentioned it already, that that Schüttflix connects three parties. We have the providers of the cargo, we have the consumers, and we have the organizations who do the transportation. And this leads us to one main thing that we can look at when we ever talk about digital ecosystems. Because there is no longer just one customer. If we talk about the customer, who is it actually? And, well, we have to think very carefully about who the customer is in a digital ecosystem, so for whom we are providing what. The situation that we see most frequently, also in the examples that we saw at the very beginning, is in the middle that we have two parties, providers and consumers. They are connected, like the Spotify example, Airbnb, Uber, and so on. On the left side, sometimes we have digital ecosystems that are, well, at least it's hard to distinguish if they are really two parties. If we look at Tinder or WhatsApp, somehow one could argue one is the sender and one is the receiver of a message in a certain moment, but actually in the next moment it's the other way around, so it's somehow a little bit academic to differentiate these two. So we make it easy. Okay, it can also be an ecosystem with just one type of partner. But then we have this example here on the right side, Schüttflix I just mentioned. Things can get even more complicated when we have three parties. Lieferando is maybe another example that you might know. We have the restaurants, we have the hungry people, and we have the people who sit on the bikes and cycle the food to me. At least in some cities it is handled like that. In some cities it's just the restaurant who has the drivers, so it could even be some variances.
And we have more examples. Not only Schüttflix, but another one that we can have a close look at is Shaper Hub. Shaper Hub is an ecosystem that is provided by the company Shaper Tools. And what they are actually doing is they're creating hardware. They are creating machines, the milling machines, or Oberfräse in German, that you can use to do a lot of woodworking with them. They can be used by private persons to create stunning stuff that they can put into wood, even carve something in the ground floor if they want it in their room. All these things, but they can also be used by professional woodworkers. And Shaper Hub is interesting because this is run by Shaper Tools. Shaper Tools is the broker in the digital ecosystem, and what they're doing is they're connecting providers of stencils, again in that case, of plans that can be used for their machines to people that want to consume these plans. And this is completely for free. Nobody's paying for that thing. But still, this is a successful digital ecosystem that we can see here. And what we can learn from that example when we look at Shaper Hub is that they are combining the hardware that they are producing and the hardware that they are selling with the software system, with the digital ecosystem that is in addition to that hardware. And that digital ecosystem, it doesn't directly contribute to their business model. In fact, it only costs money to run the digital ecosystem, to build it, to operate it. But on the other hand, they are providing their digital ecosystem to push the sales on their hardware machines because they increase the value of the hardware that they are selling by providing their digital ecosystem. So this is not only a marketing instrument, but it's really part of the value that they're providing with the hardware that they are selling. And what we can learn from that is not only you don't have to charge money, that's not necessarily the important thing, but also you have to bring all the teams together. So the hardware team and the software team, in that case, they have to work closely together. They have to form a real team within the company to make sure that the value that they want to put into the market with the machines can be delivered also through the digital ecosystem. And in this case, we said, okay, it was the hardware team and the software team. But in fact, when we are talking about digital ecosystems, it is super important to make sure that you really approach this in a multidisciplinary way. You don't only lead the hardware team, you need lots of roles in here. So let's say you have the business developers in here, you have the communicators in here, user experience designer, system architect, customer advisor, top-level manager, and I'm not reading out all of them. But what you can see here is all of these superheroes that are coming together and everybody is an expert in their own profession. All of them need to work together as one team to really ensure that they can view that ecosystem from all angles, that they can make sure that all of the bits and pieces are working together and they all contribute with their own expertise. It is really, really important that you view that ecosystem as a real challenge that needs that multidisciplinary approach. Maybe we go on with the next example.
Yes, so one more example. Alzura Tire 24, again an example that you might not have heard of before because they are in the B2B market. But we like them very much because they are also from Kaiserslautern, like our institute. And we are not getting paid by them, not by anyone here, but still it's an example where we can see that, well, in a small city like Kaiserslautern, we even have digital ecosystems coming up. So what are they doing? They are connecting providers of car parts, spare parts, and they connect them to organizations that need these parts like construction shops, repair shops, and even car dealers. So there is the Saito AG, that's the organization that provides this kind of a marketplace. They already started many, many years ago, and they have quite some history, as you can see in 2002 already founded, quite a history of changes where they started and where they are now. You might guess by the name, Tire 24, that they actually started just with dealing tires. And, well, that was their origin. And over the time, they expanded it over more and more things, all related to cars. They have car parts of any kind. In the meanwhile, they even provide services, for example, for financing, for support. And this is somehow kind of similar to what Amazon did. I'm sure you all know the story. They just started with selling books, and we know what they are doing now, basically selling everything. And that's what they did starting with tires and now basically selling everything related for cars or car parts. And if we take analogies from Amazon, I'm not sure if they got inspired by it, but they also have something like Amazon Prime, because the consumers, they can have a subscription to get the discount on the actual products that they buy. They get the shipping for free. They get additional support. So just as we as Prime, or maybe you as Prime customers, there are just some additional benefits that you gain from the subscription. For example, then the free shipping. But of course, this doesn't come really for free. What they favor is that the consumers get some benefits, but of course the providers in the end have to pay that to somehow, because there is a, multiple fee structure, because there's not only the subscription model, but they also have the regular transaction fee that you would expect for a marketplace. So whenever some purchase is made, some tires, car parts are purchased, Tire for 24 also gets their share. So they have a combination of different aspects of a different business model. And we looked in this business model aspect even more, because that is one of the main interesting things about the design of digital ecosystems, all the different strategies that one could have to get some money. And I've selected a few examples, now some examples that you know of, and maybe also are familiar with the price structure. So sometimes it's the provider who has to pay something, sometimes it is the consumer who has to pay something, like in Spotify or the eBay or Uber example, it's the consumers that pay. Or in Airbnb, maybe you know that they are actually both parties who are monetized. So both parties need to pay their share on the rent of an apartment. And we can look into this even more. And I will not go through this in detail, but what we looked in very carefully and already designed some methods to help our customers to design their business model for their digital ecosystem is to answer really some core questions. Namely, of course, who pays it? And there can be multiple payers. How is the money flow? So is it connected to a transaction? Is it a regular fee? Or a combination of anything? Well, and obviously, how much is it? And what you can see from all these boxes, these are different options to choose from. A pay per use, a pay per, for example, is it any kind? I mentioned already a few examples. So there are so many combinations to choose from, and actually we can build some kind of a matrix that we intend, of course, in a more simplified way to use with our customers to basically, like a morphological box, to choose the business model for us. And what is interesting, what we can maybe guess a little bit from this picture, again, you don't need to read this, what we can see is that there is a business model for the broker, so for the eBay itself, for example. But of course, the organizations that sell their goods on eBay, they have a known business model, and that might be a completely different model from the broker. So it's kind of an interesting insight to see that we have to consider two different business models or multiple business models at the same time when we design such a digital ecosystem.
And talking about business models, we have another example here that is really interesting when looking at it from the angle of the business model. So I'm pretty sure you know My Hammer as an example in that case. And My Hammer, as you might know, is the place where you can find Handwerker, craftsmen, and you can get them for the problem that you have. And My Hammer is brokering their service to the customers. That's the general idea of My Hammer, and as you can see, it was established in 1999, so that's quite old in that case. If you want it like that, they're already there for really decades in that business. And My Hammer is really, really interesting as an example, because My Hammer is something doing that is not done by most of the other ecosystems, because the consumers can determine the price for My Hammer. So normally there's someone who is giving the asset into the digital ecosystem, someone who is giving the service in there, and they say, okay, this is the price for my service. But what My Hammer does is they put the consumer in that place and they say, okay, the consumer decides what the price should be. This is already something that is pretty interesting by itself. But what My Hammer is also doing, and that's why I mentioned that they are already there since 1990, My Hammer has changed their own business model quite often. And in fact, it is so often that I have to read it because I can't even remember what they have done all the time. But My Hammer has constantly developed their model. So in the beginning, they had like an auction that was running downwards, and then the people could bid on that thing. They changed that thing to a pay-per-contact model. Then they changed it again to a pay-per-service model. They changed it again to an abo model, so a subscription model. They changed it again to a different kind of subscription model, and they over and over and over changed it again, really iterating over their own business model, constantly evolving themselves. And by keeping the same consumers and the same providers in the ecosystem, they haven't changed their target groups, they haven't changed the people that are part of the ecosystem, but they constantly evolved their own business model. And this is something that we can really learn from them, that we can take away, is that the first idea that might be even working might still not be the best one. So it is worth trying something else, and it's worth investing in that. And another thing that we can learn from MyHammer is, maybe even if you are a digital ecosystem that is connecting people, it's always worth looking around who else is there to connect to. And there was something going on between MyHammer and IKEA in Austria, and they were trying to come together, because you go to IKEA, you buy something, you're happy, you're even more happy if you get it into your car, and when you get back home, you realize, okay, this is a lot of stuff that I have put together. And what they were trying to do is, in the moment that they were selling some furniture, that you already could book the service for getting it put up on MyHammer. We don't know how this went out, but I'm pretty sure they have learned a lot that it will integrate into their own business model iteration. But what is also something that we can learn from that is, again, remember, this thing is decades old. If you start working on the digital ecosystem, the break-even doesn't come after 1.5 years. So you cannot calculate that return on investment with 1.5 years. You need more time with that. It really takes time to establish a digital ecosystem. And in fact, let's have a bit closer look on that. Over time, the platform that you're creating, the software service, all that infrastructure, that thing will evolve. And that thing eventually reach somehow stable state with time that is going on. But you don't only need the infrastructure, you don't only need the software, you need the whole ecosystem. You need the whole digital ecosystem. So you need the asset providers. And in the beginning, there will be no asset providers at all. So you will start slowly ramping them up, getting them into your ecosystem, and trying to really get a higher number and higher number of asset providers. And what you can do is, to increase the volume of assets, you can also go for more different assets on the platform. And the other thing that you need is also the consumers. You have a multi-sided market, so not only the providers, but also the consumers. And again, you start with zero. When you start the ecosystem, you need to get them into your system. And here we see, okay, more services, more benefits that you can offer them. This will help you get more volume on that ecosystem. But all these things are leveraged by the network effect, which only works if you have both sides in there. But this takes time to build it up. It takes time, and it also takes money. So the successful ecosystems that we can see, all of them have been grown over years and years. As I said, even like 20 years all. And when we look at this is also quite large companies. Uber, 22,000 people there. Booking, 17,000 people. Airbnb, nearly 13,000 people. For just the website that you are seeing there, this is quite a large company, because it takes a lot of effort and a lot of energy to create an ecosystem, to create these network effects, and to bring all these people together. And about bringing people together, we have one more example.
Yep. So yeah, one more example, Marktschwärmer. Maybe there's something that you could have heard of, because it addresses us as private people. So what they are doing, they are producers of food, farmers, for example, or any other local organizations that provide food for us. And of course, they are we, the people who are hungry, who want to buy something from the region, do something good for our environment by doing so. And they are brought together at so-called Schwärmereien. So I don't even know how to translate that in English, so I hope you get the idea. They are brought together on some kind of a local market that is organized, but it's not organized by Marktschwärmer itself. This is the big organization they have a community, established a community of local organizations. These create these local Schwärmereien, so basically the markets that bring together people who want some food and the people or the organizations who provide the food. And the idea is, other than a regular market that you might have in your city, that there is of course an online shop behind that. That's why we have a digital ecosystems where people can pre-order the food, so the farmers, they know what to bring, how much to bring, and then basically the food is distributed at a location at this Schwärmerei. And Patrick just mentioned the high number of people that are typically needed for building up a digital ecosystem, especially for doing customer support. That's why it might be a little bit surprising to see that they are doing it just with 6 employees. Now, basically, the idea is, the reason why they are able to do that is that they distribute this work in a very clever way. By having these local people who are, well, willing to take over the task. They are not officially working for Marktschwärmer, but of course they also get their share. That's why this 6 employees might sound surprisingly low. But it shows somehow that with a clever combination of distributing some work, having some local entities of a digital ecosystem, it is possible to get a widespread without even have a lot of load on one central organization. So what they need is a big community, and I want to use that to build up a little bit what is all needed for creating a successful digital ecosystem. When we talk about digital ecosystem, of course, the term digital is there, so there's a tendency to always start with the digital part, the software. Maybe that's, at least for us as computer scientists, might be, well, tempting to do so. But of course, what we need, and I think we made this clear with all the examples, is that business aspects are maybe even the key driver of a digital ecosystem. And whenever we do business, legal aspects are the same. We need to look at our own organization. We have some slides after that to look at this in more, but of course we need a proper vision, we need a strategy. It needs to fit to the organization to follow this idea of a digital ecosystem. And then we need partners, and, well, they need to be selected carefully. We need to, well, find suitable partners. And, of course, especially what Marktschwärmer has done successfully is building that community, creating a community where people want to contribute, and by doing so, being able to expand, even across Europe. They are already in France and in the Benelux area. Of course, and then whenever we build a digital ecosystem, most likely we are not alone. There are competitors that need to be observed. And lastly, there are, of course, the others. Especially when we talk about digital things, there could be companies like Google, Apple, Facebook. If they want to take over a certain domain, and as I said in the beginning, basically every domain can be affected or maybe even will be affected by digital ecosystems, they could be entering the market quite quickly with all the technology that they have. So whenever you are in a situation of building a digital ecosystem, maybe that is also some organization to have in mind. So actually, coming close to the end, we ask this question frequently: what is the view that your company or any company currently have? And when we talk to our customers, we see typically different stages that companies are in. At first, well, there is not yet any engagement in a digital ecosystem. And at this stage, when organizations come to us, we try to show the options that are there. Of course, it's always possible to just join a digital ecosystem, to be the one who is a provider or consumer in a digital ecosystem. Or one could be the founder of a digital ecosystem, the one who creates the concept, who establishes. Or, of course, it can be a valid decision to be not involved in this area at all. Of course, that is fine too. Well, once there is a decision for doing the construction, this means, of course, having a proper approach to design a digital ecosystem. Maybe you have been here last year with us. We talked about tangible ecosystem design, our approach to design digital ecosystems with some toy figures to make it really tangible, to feel the digital ecosystem, kind of. So that is the stage then to really design the digital ecosystem and refine it even more. And there are some key questions that always need to be answered. So something that we typically see is that for one party, there might not be a sufficiently high motivation to actually join the digital ecosystem. As Patrick said in the beginning, it is always voluntary that organizations join a digital ecosystem, but they come because they have a benefit from it. Could be money-wise, but of course there can also be other benefits. They need to be elaborated in detail to understand if a digital ecosystem actually can be successful. And once that is the case, the next phase is starting to build MVPs, starting to get prototypes, starting to get early feedback, where we closely get towards the traditional software engineering approaches that we need to apply to gain feedback, to learn from a prototype and to elaborate it further. Well, and of course, once this prototype has gone live, the idea is that Well, we have to get to this ramp up, as Patrick has shown in one of the slides, where we want to get more consumers, more providers to get this whole thing growing, because it all relates on the both parties being there and growing on a similar rate. Well, of course, and that is the goal that we want to have, to really grow big. This is the great potential of digital ecosystems. Well, I mentioned it already, and because we're running out of time, I don't explain any more details about tangible ecosystem design. If you have not heard about it, just come to us and we will show you more details. So what we have shown is that we see many organizations who have this interest in getting into digital ecosystems, but of course it really needs some courage, because there are many steps to take, many things to consider, and we hope we gave you some impressions of what the companies are looking at and what changes they made over time. And this of course requires also the skill to do that properly, to maintain this constant changes over a long period of time. And we took all these inspirations from the study. You find on these cubes some flyers, and also at the booth there are some more of them, where on the back side there's a QR code that you can scan, and it will directly lead you to the study. So if you're interested in more examples, around 40 of them, and what we can learn from them, inspirations you can get from them, just feel free to take one of these with you. And with that, we thank you very much for your attention. And if you have questions, feel free to ask us or come to us anytime.